Today I want to do a little experiment. Watercolor papers come in lots of different shades. I have just 4 here and they're very different, and I want to see how much the base color of the paper really affects how paint looks and affects your painting, and in what way does it do that, and in what circumstances does it do that. So we're going to do a little experiment, and I'm going to show you the results of me testing out these papers. The results are interesting. It's not what I thought, so keep watching and we can have a look at what it looks like. So I have a couple of papers that I would use because it's the brand I like, and a couple of papers that are quite popular with you guys. I have the Saunders Waterford High White Cold Press 300 GSM. This is the one that I use for my own paintings. These are all cotton paper, by the way. I love this paper, and I use that high white. But Saunders and Waterford does a natural, or the non-high white version, and there's a significant difference between the two colors. And I'm like, well, does it really make a difference which color I would pick? And then I also have the Fabriano Artistico High White, which is very popular with some of you, and that's very, very white. And we also have the Arch paper, which is somewhere between the high white and the more natural Saunders and Waterford. I'm gonna just show you guys comparison between the Saunders and Waterford, but all these papers are cold press and 300 GSM. This is the difference between the two. I would say just by a smidge that the Saunders and Waterford high white is a little bit whiter than the Fabriano Artistico. Then comes the Arch, and then comes Saunders and Waterford. The Saunders and Waterford is yellowy than the Arch, but it's also feels a little bit brighter. This one feels more muted, so it's a good range to test with. So here are the papers: Saunders and Waterford High White, Natural Saunders and Waterford, Fabriano Artistico High White, and Arch. And here are the results of me doing some tests. This is the high white. This is the natural, Fabriano, and Arch. What I did when I tested this, I tested 2 things and I kept some variables the same. What I did with each color, so for all 4 sheets, I made a little bowl of the same color so that I knew that the paint concentration that I was putting down was exactly the same in all 4 sheets. That's just to make sure that if we see any difference in the vibrancy of the colors, then that's coming from the paper and not from the difference in concentration of paint that I'm putting down. I've done 2 swatches. One at the top is when it's all just solid colors with no white in the way, and then I've also done one where I have lots of white gaps. That is, for example, if you the kind of painter, or you are painting a particular painting where you are going to cover the entire paper with paint, then does it really matter? Whereas the ones with the gaps are for people, or for paintings where you are going to leave the white of the paper showing through. Does that matter, or does that not matter? Does that make sense? So it's 2 different things that we're measuring. And straight up, I can see that with the gappy bits, that the colors on the whiter ones look far more vibrant than the ones that are on a more creamy and more natural kind of color. The brightness of the white really helps to bring that brightness up with it. But it would be interesting to see if there's any difference when there's no white showing. So let's layer these. Actually, for biggest contrast, I'm going to put the lightest and the darkest one together, and then the Fabriano, then Arch. And I will be putting high-res scans of these, as always, with all the test sheets I do, so that you can compare it. I will also take photographs of these together so that you can really see the difference. But here's just the solids, and I'm going to cover this here. just so that we can focus on just the solids. And I have to say, yes, I can see some difference in the lighter colors, like the yellow and the orange. The colors are definitely just a shade darker on the Saunders Waterford. I'm sorry, I didn't even explain where the papers are. This is Saunders and Waterford High White. This is Saunders and Waterford Natural, Fabriano High White and Arch. So we should see the biggest difference here, but really noticeable difference are only in these colors, and the rest look exactly the same. And you can see the most difference again between the Fabriano with the Saunders Waterford Natural and Arch. You can see that the Fabriano is a little bit brighter, but if we just take away these colors, I don't really see a big difference at all in the brightness. Maybe in the phthalo blue here, but it's not like a huge difference. It's not as noticeable difference as we get with just seeing the gappy ones, where these colors do look brighter and it's really helped by the brighter white. So if you're the kind of person that does cover their paintings all over so that there's no paper showing, I don't think you need to worry as much unless you do a lot of yellowy colors. Now obviously I painted this by default at very high concentration of paint. That's just because this is how I paint. And then after I did this, I realized, hey, maybe you'll see a bigger difference if I hadn't painted it so strong in color. So I did do a second set the next day of much paler colors to see if we will notice a bigger difference in these. So let's lay these out in the same order. So this is Saunders Waterford High White. This is the Saunders Waterford Natural, Fabriano Artistico, and then the Arch. And I can pick out across the board, if you just have a look, that this stripe and this stripe looks brighter than this stripe and this stripe. So obviously it seems obvious now that I've done this test, but if you paint with paler colors, then obviously the color of the paper will affect how vibrant your painting is going to come out. Even if there's no white showing, that color of the paper is going to affect and show through for paler colors and for yellow colors. You really see the difference in the yellow of how much the color changes. And let's have a look at the gappy areas. So that's Saunders Waterford High White, the Saunders and Waterford Natural, Fabriano Artistico, and Arch. And yeah, these look completely so much more vibrant, brighter colors than these. The reason why you see a bigger difference when the paper is gappy is because color's relative, and it gets affected not just by what's underneath because it's transparent, but also by the color next to it. So if the colors are more muted, everything else looks a little bit more muted, whereas if you have bright colors next to each other, that's going to look brighter together. I did the same thing with the paint concentration here in terms of painting from the same pot of paint and water mixture. So I know that to the best of my ability, the concentration of paint is controlled and it's the same. And these just look more fresh, it's more summery colors, and whereas these are muted. So what's really good to know about this is you can pick and choose which color paper you want to go for depending on the look you're going for. If you're going for a summery look, vibrant kind of painting, then go for the high white. But if you like a little bit more muted, more natural colors, maybe you work with more natural colors or more muted colors, then I would recommend going for the less brighter papers, because that's really going to help with homogenizing and calming down your colors, even if you use quite bright colors. So if you've been painting and you want to do a bright painting and you're like, why is somebody else's painting look more vibrant than mine? And if you are using the more natural one, or if you can get your hands on a brighter papers, the papers that are called high white, specifically in the title of their paper, then I would recommend swapping over and see where you get with this. Conversely, if you do work on high white and you're like, I just really struggle to get the more natural, more muted, more homogenized, less vibrant look, then I recommend trying the more natural kind of colors. And in terms of when it matters, obviously the paler the paintings you make, then the more the color of the paper is going to affect it. But if you do paint with high saturation and use a lot more of these, then the color of the paper kind of stops becoming an issue, especially when there's no color of the paper coming through. So for example, if you do paint with strong colors but you only have natural color paper but you cover the whole page anyway, then I wouldn't worry so much. Whereas if you do want that white showing, then we really do need to start looking at the color of the paper. I hope this video was useful to you. I think it's super interesting to see the actual effect of the color of the paper that we choose. I know a lot of people are a huge fan of the Arch cold press, but if you want vibrant paintings, then I do recommend giving at least a try with this high white kind of papers and see if you can get the look that you're looking for. I think color of the water paper, especially if you've only tried just Arch or something, isn't a thing that we think about a lot in watercolor. But because watercolor is so translucent and we get the luminosity of the painting from the color of the paper, it's something that is actually quite important and makes a huge difference in how our painting is going to turn out. So I hope this video was useful. Do let me know in the comments down below what you think of it. Do also let me know which is your favorite paper and why you like that paper. Mine is this because I like really vibrant paintings. If there's any other thing you want me to test out, like how does the different color of papers affect painting, can we actually see an experiment and make observations, then I'm more than happy to do that. So do let me know in the comments down below and I'll see what I can do for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will of course put high-res scans of all of this over on my Patreon, patreon.com/Oto Kano. I hope to see you then, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!